perhaps being a little misty as to his own identity when he narrates, perhaps impartially adopting the Cloisterham nomenclature in reference to a character of acknowledged distinction. Thus he will say, touching his strange sights, "Durdles come upon the old chap," in reference to a buried magnate of ancient times and high degrees, "by striking right into the coffin with his pick. The old chap gave Durdles a look with his open eyes, as much as to say, 'Is your name Durdles? Why, my man, I've been waiting for you a devil of a time.' And then he turned to powder." With a 2-foot rule always in his pocket, and a mason's hammer all but always in his hand, Durdles goes continually sounding and tapping all about and about the Cathedral; and whenever he says to Tope, "Tope, here's another old 'un in here," Tope announces it to the Dean as an established discovery. In a suit of coarse flannel with horn buttons, a yellow neckerchief with draggled ends, an old hat more russet-coloured than black, and laced boots of the hue of his stony calling, Durdles leads a hazy gipsy sort of life, carrying his dinner about with him in a small bundle, and sitting on all manner of tombstones to dine. This dinner of Durdles has become quite a Cloisterham institution, not only because of his never appearing in public without it, but because of its having been, on certain renowned occasions, taken into custody along with Durdles, as drunk and incapable, and exhibited before the bench of justices at the Town Hall. These occasions, however, have been few and far apart, Durdles being as seldom drunk as sober. For the rest, he is an old bachelor, and he lives in a small antiquated hole of a house that was never finished, supposed to have been built, so far, of stones stolen from the city wall. To this abode there is an approach, ankle deep in stone chips, resembling a petrified grove of tombstones, urns, draperies, and broken columns, in all stages of sculpture. Herein 2 journeymen incessantly chip, while 2 other journeymen, who face each other, incessantly saw stone, dipping as regularly in and out of their sheltering sentry boxes as if they were mechanical figures emblematical of time and death. To Durdles, when he had consumed his glass of port, Mr. Sapsea entrusts that precious effort of his muse. Durdles unfeelingly takes out his 2-foot rule, and measures the lines calmly, alloying them with stone grit. "This is for the monument, is it, Mr. Sapsea?" "The inscription, yes." Mr. Sapsea waits for its effect on a common mind. "It'll come in to 1/8 of an inch," says Durdles. "Your servant, Mr. Jasper. Hope I see you well." "How are you, Durdles?" "I've got a touch of the tombaticism on me, Mr. Jasper, but that I must expect." "You mean the rheumatism," says Sapsea in a sharp tone. He is nettled by having his composition so mechanically received. "No, I don't. I mean, Mr. Sapsea, the tombaticism. It's another sort from rheumatism. Mr. Jasper knows what Durdles means. You get among the tombs afore it's well light on a winter morning, and keep on, as the Catechism says, a walking in the same all the days of your life, and you'll know what Durdles means." "It's a bitter cold place," Mr. Jasper assents, with an antipathetic shiver. "And if it's bitter cold for you, up in the chancel, with a lot of live breath smoking out about you, what the bitterness is to Durdles, down in the crypt among the earthy damps there, and the dead breath of the old urns," returns that individual, "Durdles leaves for you to judge. Is this to be put in hand at once, Mr. Sapsea?" Mr. Sapsea, with an author's anxiety to rush into publication, replies that it cannot be out of hand too soon. "You had better let me have the key, then," says Durdles. "Why, man, it's not to be put inside the monument." "Durdles knows where it's to be put, Mr. Sapsea. No man better. Ask here a man in Cloisterham whether Durdles knows his work." Mr. Sapsea rises, takes a key from a drawer, unlocks an iron safe let into the wall, and takes from it another key. "When Durdles puts a touch or a finish upon his work, no matter where, inside or outside, Durdles likes to look at his work all round, and see that his work is a doing him credit," Durdles explains doggedly. The key proffered him by the bereaved widower being a large one, he slips his 2-foot rule into a side pocket of his flannel trousers made for it, and deliberately opens his flannel coat, and opens the mouth of a large breast pocket within it, before taking the key to place it in that repository. "Why, Durdles!" exclaims Jasper, looking on amused, "you are undermined with pockets." "And I carries weight in 'em too, Mr. Jasper. Feel those," producing 2 other large keys. "Hand me Mr. Sapsea's likewise. Surely this is the heaviest of the 3. "You'll find 'em much of a muchness, I expect," says Durdles. "They all belong to monuments. They all open Durdles' work. Durdles keeps the keys of his work mostly. Not that they're much used." "By the by," it comes into Jasper's mind to say, as he idly examines the keys, "I have been going to ask you many a day, and have always forgotten. You know they sometimes call you Stony, Durdles, don't you?" "Cloisterham knows me as Durdles, Mr. Jasper." "I am aware of that, of course. But the boys sometimes—" "Oh, if you mind them young imps of boys," Durdles gruffly interrupts.
"I don't mind them any more than you do. But there was a discussion the other day among the choir, whether Stony stood for Tony," clinking one key against another.
"Take care of the wards, Mr. Jasper."
"Or whether Stony stood for Stephen," clinking with a change of keys.
"You can't make a pitch pipe of 'em, Mr. Jasper."
"Or whether the name comes from your trade. How stands the fact?" Mr. Jasper weighs the 3 keys in his hands, lifts his head from the idly stooping attitude over the fire, and delivers the keys to Durdles with an ingenuous and friendly face. But the Stony one is a gruff one likewise, and that hazy state of his is always an uncertain state, highly conscious of its dignity, and prone to take offence. He drops his 2 keys back into his pocket one by one, and buttons them up. He takes his dinner bundle from the chair back on which he hung it when he came in. He distributes the weight he carries, by tying the 3rd key up in it as though he were an ostrich and liked to dine off cold iron, and he gets out of the room, deigning no word of answer. Mr. Sapsea then proposes a hit at backgammon, which, seasoned with his own improving conversation, and terminating in a supper of cold roast beef and salad, beguiles the golden evening until pretty late. Mr. Sapsea's wisdom being, in its delivery to mortals, rather of the diffuse than the epigrammatic order, is by no means expended even then. But his visitor intimates that he will come back for more of the precious commodity on future occasions, and Mr. Sapsea lets him off for the present, to ponder on the instalment he carries away. End of Chapter 4. Read by Alan Chant of Tunbridge, Kent, England, during the summer of 2007.